Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is your host Thomas Tyree from On the Hot Podcast. Today, I have some bonus content for you guys. The bonus content we'll be covering today will be in the sport of football inside the college football world. In today's bonus segment, I'll be sharing my Alabama versus LSU game prediction. So, another chapter will be written in the historic SEC conference when we see a number 11th ranked Alabama go on the road to Death Valley to play against the 15th ranked LSU Tigers in a huge SEC matchup where there are some huge ramifications for the winner and the loser of this ball game as we are getting closer and closer to the end of the regular season of college football. I have a feeling that the loser of this game will be out of college football contention, with both Alabama being 6-2. With LSU being 6-2, something's got to give here, and it's going to be unlikely for a team that has 3 losses that did not win their conference in these team scenarios to make the playoffs. So that's why I feel like the loser of this game is going to completely be wiped out of playoff contention this year. So, and also the step back up what I just said, Alabama has a 59% chance of making the playoffs. Then you look at LSU, this is all in or nothing. They got to treat this like this is a college game. Both teams do. But LSU right now has an 8% chance of making the playoffs, being the 15th ranked team. So this game is going to be very important on both sides, for both programs this weekend. Now, in the coaching department, both of these coaches got a lot to prove as well. You look at Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer, this is his first year at Alabama. He came from Washington. He helped the Huskies. And that talented team last year, they fell short one game of the college football championship, falling to the Michigan Wolverines. But Kalen DeBoer moving over to the SEC is filling in some big shoes for Nick Saban, former head coach of Alabama, the greatest college football coach of all time. He's filling in some big shoes. So if he can silence the critics, make the playoffs in his first season there at Alabama, that will make a lot of Alabama football fans out there very comfortable and sleep well at night. But he's got to get past LSU and finish the season strong. And then I'm looking at LSU. Brian Kelly is under a lot of pressure to succeed in this game as well. Since he's came to LSU, he doesn't have the best track record against ranked teams. He's 4-7 against ranked opponents since taking over for LSU. And he had a lot of high expectations when he came over a few years ago from Notre Dame and took over this LSU program. They haven't lived up to the hype and the expectations that they were a few years ago when they had that star-studded team of the 2019 team, one of the greatest college football teams of all time. But you guys get my point. Kalen DeBoer and Brian Kelly are in both must-win situations for their respective programs this weekend. Now, these are the following blueprints that I have for these teams to follow to walk out of Death Valley with a huge SEC victory, some bragging rights, and a chance to keep their playoff hopes alive for this college football season. Starting off with Alabama, these are the blueprints I have for them to win this ball game. They got to force Garrett Nussmeier to turn over the ball. And I think Garrett Nussmeier is one of the best quarterbacks in the country today. He's grown on me a lot this college football season. But one thing I got to say about Garrett Nussmeier, he's got a great arm. He's got great pocket awareness skills. The thing about him is Garrett Nussmeier he can turn over the ball in a blink of an eye as well. And we seen this 2 weeks ago when LSU played Texas A&M, where Garrett Nussmeier, he's consistent one half, inconsistent the next half, because you look at his touchdown to interception ratio, and that game against Texas A&M a few weeks ago, he had 2 passing touchdowns in the first half. You look at his interception ratio, the touchdown interception ratio the second half, and he had 3 interceptions against that Texas A&M defense. A tale of 2 halves. And that's the only thing about Garrett Nussmeier. He's got the skills to be a good quarterback, but he could be very inconsistent at times and be very prone of turning over the football and times that you don't need to turn over the football. So I think Alabama's got to capitalize on that, force them to create turnovers. And last but not least, I got 2 more, but Alabama's defense has to be consistent. Their victory, they had a bye week last week, but their victory a week ago or 2 weeks ago against Missouri where they won that ball game 34-0 in a shutout victory. That was the only time this college football season, for 4 quarters and 60 minutes, and I've seen this Alabama defense play at an elite level, or even close to an elite level. That is the only time. So they got to be much more consistent on the defensive side of the ball. I think this Alabama defense hasn't been as strong. We've seen so much more stronger defensive units for Alabama over the years, but this year there's just something different about them, and they're just average at best, and that's something you don't expect from an Alabama defense. So they got to play well, and they have to be consistent for all 4 quarters if they want a chance to win this ball game on the road against LSU. Now, the last blueprint is they got to lean on their quarterback, Jalen Milroe. Now, Jalen Milroe was a Heisman Trophy favorite. He slipped in the Heisman run this year, and no, who cares? He slipped in the Heisman run, but the goal for every college football team is to win a championship and get yourself in position to win a championship. So they got to lean on Jalen Milroe. Leave the stats behind. Don't worry about the Heisman run. Worry about winning this ball game, putting your team in position to go out there to the college football playoffs and then have a chance to win it all. So they got to lean on their quarterback, Jalen Milroe here, running the football with Jalen Milroe and running those RPO plays, something that they found a lot of success doing all season long on the offensive side of the ball with Jalen Milroe. And Alabama has actually came out and said in some interviews that Jalen Milroe has not been 100%. He's been banged up. Well, this is the best time to get him right because they're coming off a bye week. This should have given Jalen Milroe time to recover. He should have his batteries recharged. He should be refreshed going out to a game out there in LSU. So they're gonna have to lean on him. Play calling has to be spectacular for Jalen Milroe. They got to lean on him making plays with his arm, lean on him making plays with his leg, and he should be very more mobile in this game against LSU. Even on the tape, you could tell that Jalen Milroe wasn't as mobile making plays, but he should be recharged, refreshed for this game. They're going to have to lean on him in the RPO game if they want to have a chance to beat LSU in this game. Now, let's go into LSU. LSU's got to be effective running the ball. And I know if you guys have watched LSU, you're LSU fans out there watching and listening, if you paid attention to them in the SEC this year, LSU has not ran the ball effectively at all this college football season. And the thing is, even though you haven't ran the ball well, you got to at least try in this game against Alabama because you cannot be one-dimensional against this team. And I feel like this is a callback and a hot take for some, but I feel like if they're going to be one-dimensional against Alabama, this could lead to an Alabama versus Georgia first half type where Georgia put all their eggs in Carson Beck's basket, with Carson Beck trying to go out there and sling the ball around, being one-dimensional, not really getting the running game going, and that led to Georgia being off the field and Alabama taking over, cashing in on opportunities, cashing in on points. But we all knew Alabama's defense collapsed. I don't know if LSU can afford to be one-dimensional and pray to get back into a ball game against Alabama. So they got to be effective passing the ball and running the ball. And the only time that LSU has actually had a good running game going, the best game running the football, was against Arkansas a few weeks ago when they ran for a total of 158 yards rushing as a team. So they got to be they can't be one-dimensional. They got to run the ball. They got to pass the ball in order to defeat Alabama. Now, last blueprint is the offensive line's got to win the battle in the trenches. LSU's offensive line against Alabama's defensive front. LSU, they got to be good. Their offensive line has to be good pass blocking to give Garrett Nussmeier enough time in the pocket to deliver some precise throws, some deep ball throws, some plays to give their quarterback a chance to get them in position to win this ball game. I mean, Garrett Nussmeier, like I just said, he is a good quarterback, and he is growing on me. But they got to give him time in the pocket to make plays, because if you don't, the pocket collapses. Garrett Nussmeier could panic, throw the ball off target. That could lead to interceptions, or that could lead to some sack force fumbles that could happen in the pocket if Garrett Nussmeier is not getting enough time in the pocket. So I think if Garrett Nussmeier has enough time to deliver throws in the pocket, throwing to wide receivers like Kyron Lacy and Aaron Anderson, that we know they could get a lot of yak yards after catch. There's some dynamic wide receivers on the outside for LSU's offense they could do that. They got a good chance of beating LSU. So those are the blueprints that I have for those respective teams to follow. They want to walk out of Death Valley with a victory Saturday night in college football. But with that being said, I'm going to go with LSU to win a close ball game this Saturday in Death Valley and this SEC matchup. I just feel like we're going to see a trajectory score of LSU winning this game 31-28. And if you're a fan of offensive shootouts in college football, this is going to be your game because both Alabama and LSU's defenses are not elite. We're going to see a duel at the quarterback position between Garrett Nussmeier and Jalen Milroe. That should be an exciting matchup. But I just feel like LSU is going to pull out a close victory at home. I feel like they're going to be thriving off of that Saturday night vibe at home. And Alabama has lost 2 of their only games on the road this year. They lost against Vanderbilt on the road. They lost against Tennessee on the road. So I feel like if LSU comes out being the more physical team, they can at least attempt to get a running game going. They haven't ran the ball effectively all year long. But if they could get a running game going, they could get offensive line does their job pass blocking for Garrett Nussmeier to sit back in the pocket, throw precise throws to his wideouts, and Kyron Lacey and Aaron Anderson of some wide receivers that can get a lot of yards after catch. I think they got a good chance of winning this ball game and ending Alabama's chances of making the college football playoff. So that is my Alabama versus LSU game prediction. That is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This is your host, Thomas Tyree, signing off. And I'll see you guys on next week's episode.